Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond Limits podcast. My name is Liv, and I'm excited to dive into another episode for you today because we are talking about everybody's favorite topic in my world, which is how do I collapse time? How do I jump timelines? How do I get the thing that I desire faster? And so we're diving into the exact molecule that allows you to collapse time. There's literally a molecule in your system that you can leverage, that you can use, that's going to allow you to do this. So before we dive into what that molecule is, it's important for us to kind of set the scene. Like, what is the highway that allows this molecule to actually run in your system, to work? And so all of us, from a neuroscience perspective, have a nervous system. And within your nervous system, you have what is called the Reticular Activating System, otherwise known as your RAS. So this is a system in your brainstem that really dictates how you perceive your reality, what you also deem as safe, and anything that your system doesn't think is safe to receive or safe to accept or safe to experience, it simply won't. And so this highway, if you will, is governed by this one molecule. And that molecule is called acetylcholine. So think about acetylcholine as the guard. It lets things in or it keeps things out. It what modulates, or like a traffic guard, this highway. So if you don't have enough of this molecule present, it's going to be a lot harder to get through, right? There's going to be a lot more resistance in your system. I want you to think about it. If you've ever watched Lord of the Rings, acetylcholine is like Gandalf, right? Gandalf saying in the cave, like, you shall not pass. This is really one of my favorite analogies to remember because it's going to allow you to think about, what is my acetylcholine doing right now? And so acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, right? It runs your parasympathetic system, which allows you to be relaxed. It allows you to be regulated. And so what happens is when you have an abundance of this molecule in your system, you no longer have resistance to allowing things in, right? So it allows your highway, if you will, to collapse. It allows you to shift identities. And it has 4 to 5 main things that really govern this molecule, right? So we have your subconscious safety, first of all, which is how safe your subconscious feels to receive more. We have your identity, right, which is how you view yourself, how you view yourself in relation to those around you. You have your belief system, right? So what you believe to be true about you, about the world. And then it has its danger system, right? So where it perceives you might be threatened or where it perceives something might be unsafe. So a lot of the times what happens is when your nervous system is in resistance, you are essentially bracing for impact, right? When we think about bracing ourselves, we're pushing up against, we're offering resistance like we were to push a door. When that molecule is present, the floodgates open, right? You're no longer bracing for impact. And chances are you've experienced this bracing for impact in your life, in your business, even though you don't know it. And this looks like fear, like what if the shoe is going to drop, right? Being in that hyper vigilant state where you're worried about how money's going to come in, how clients are going to come in, how you're going to be perceived online, what's going to come if you receive backlash or potentially getting canceled, what's going to happen if a deal falls through or doesn't come through. That is all your system bracing for impact. And see, what happens is most people, when they're trying to increase their success, they want bigger visibility, bigger money, all of those things. They're running on a very old system, right? They're running on adrenaline, they're running on cortisol, and they're running on dopamine. And so what does this loop look like so that you can make sure that you're not in this loop, right? Adrenaline is that pressure. So anytime you feel pressure in your business with money, that tells me that your system is operating on adrenaline, right? That's the first piece. Second piece, right, is cortisol. And we're all familiar with like the cortisol response. You've probably heard that word thrown around so much on the internet. And cortisol is that chasing, right? Because cortisol is present in us as humans because we used to have to run from things in the wild. we don't have to run from them in the wild anymore, or most of us do not. However, we still feel we need to chase things in money, chase things in business, chase clients, chase visibility, chase things within the algorithm, chase. And so not only do you have adrenaline, right, that pressure you put on yourself, or pressure to hit certain sales targets or income targets or perform in a certain way, we also have then the cortisol, which is making you chase. And then you have the third component of that loop, which is the dopamine, right? Which is that little hit of pleasure, because you have the pressure and the chasing in order to get the third step, which is that dopamine hit, that momentary validation, whether that's money validation, validation from praise, from algorithms online, from money, from all of the things. And then when that dopamine hit wears off, we go right back to you feeling pressure again. And you go through adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine. And you just keep cycling in this for days, weeks, months, years. And to be honest, it's exhausting, right? And I guarantee if you've been in this loop, you can be like, Liv, yes, it's exhausting. I'm kind of tired of it. I'm burnt out. And this is where you see people need to burn their businesses to the ground, or simply just get too exhausted to function, or it starts leaking out in their relationships or with their kids and in their marriage. And ultimately, it starts leaking out in your business as well, because you are not showing up as that same version of you as you would if you were calm, regulated, and magnetic. So this is where acetylcholine is essentially the antidote to this. However, it's like, all right, how do we turn that on? We have the reticular activating system, which is scanning your environment for danger. It's that highway we want to open. Acetylcholine is there as Gandalf being like, you're not going to pass. We want to open that, right, to let it all through. How can we increase this molecule, this neurotransmitter in our nervous system so that we can experience the flow, the regulation, the ease? And you might be thinking, well, Liv, can I just supplement with this? Can I just take some, acetylcholine? Can I just take some choline, which is the precursor to acetylcholine? And then that way, if I just supplement my way, all of this will go away. And the answer is not quite that simple. And that's because while choline is a precursor to acetylcholine, meaning if you have enough choline, it will make acetylcholine. If you do not have access to it, you might have reserves, but you don't have access if your system is dysregulated. So you can get choline, yes, in supplement form, but you can also get it from eggs, from protein. This is also why I always recommend to women to get enough protein, because yes, we want access to it, but we also want the building blocks to acetylcholine so that you can live calm and relaxed. But we also need access to it. So what that means is if you eat enough, eggs, meat, fish, protein, or even take a supplement of it, however, your system doesn't feel safe, it's not going to allow you to access all of that stored up choline you have to make this precursor. And so this is why safety is so important. And this is why safety in your nervous system is what is going to allow you to access what I call the quantum molecule, right? It allows you to access all of the literal chemical messengers in your body, right? It's very neuroscience. It's very a biological process that allows you to then use that to feel calm, right? So I want you to think about not if, I'll take enough and that'll override the system. It's I first need to feel safe. Then I need to make sure that I have enough choline building blocks in my system. And then acetylcholine will then flood into your system and allow things to be faster and easier than ever before. And the fun thing is that once you have enough of this acetylcholine in your system, it fundamentally changes the way your reticular activating system perceives reality, right? So like we remembered from the beginning of the episode, that is the system that dictates how you perceive things around you. It filters what information is allowed in, what information is not. That is the key to fundamentally changing your nervous system to feel more relaxed. So when you have enough of this acetylcholine, your system then looks at reality different. It no longer perceives things as threatening. It no longer gets worried or scared about money or business or clients or sales or deals or anything like that. So you're able to exist in a more calm and regulated state. And from there, you can actually change your identity, you can change your reality, and you can start experiencing something different. And when it comes to expansion, it is very difficult to expand from a hyper aroused state, right? From that cycle of adrenaline, cortisol, and dopamine. And even if you do experience some expansion, it's going to be short-lived because it's going to be dopamine driven, and you're going to burn out, right? So you're not going to be able to sustain it running on that model. Eventually, you will burn out. When you run your system, when you run your business for more of this quantum molecule, there's a lot more flow, there's a lot more ease, and you feel a certainty deep inside you where you don't need the proof around you. You don't need the validation. You are just too tapped in, turned on to your vision. You are clear, you are calm, and you are grounded. And this is the place that money is going to flow to a lot easier. So, when it comes to activating this quantum molecule, when it comes to increasing the amount of acetylcholine in your system, I really want you to remember that it fundamentally comes down to allowing your nervous system to feel safe so that Gandalf can be like, yep, we are going to allow this in. You can then access all of these building blocks of choline in your system. And this molecule is going to allow you to exist in pure regulated magnetism. And, when I think about all the women who come to me, everyone wants to be magnetic. They want ease. They just want to relax and have it come to them. And this is the molecule that allows just that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this mini episode on the quantum molecule. And remember, it is acetylcholine that allows your new level to feel safe to come in.